How are you feeling today? There are things inside us that never step into the light, not because they are dark, but because they are too private, too fragile, and too easily misunderstood. They are fleeting desires, passing fantasies, preferences we never put into words, not to friends, not to lovers, and sometimes not even to ourselves in the privacy of our own thoughts. Yet the quietest things are often the truest. What we hide is rarely the strange thing, but the thing that reveals the most about us. We tend to think sexual desire is nothing more than instinct, a brief reaction of the body, a moment of stimulus that comes and goes. But the more we mature, collide with life, and observe ourselves, the more we realize it resembles a subtle language, a signal, a reminder, a slightly open door into parts of the soul that busyness, fear, and responsibility often cause us to neglect. And the very things we don't dare say aloud are often where the most important clues live. The fear we refuse to admit to, the pressure we've gotten used to carrying, the needs we've never named, and the deeply human longings we quietly suppress. So maybe, instead of pushing them away, we can try looking at them a little more gently. No quick labeling, no quick judgment, just simply listening to what they're whispering. If something inside you has just stirred a tiny bit of curiosity, a movement you cannot quite name, then let's continue stepping deeper into the layers of meaning behind human desire. We often grow up believing sexual desire is only about the body, a bit of biology, a bit of reflex, a bit of stimulation that rises and fades. But if things were truly that simple, why is it that with the same person, in the same moment, there are days when you tremble with longing, and days when you feel absolutely nothing? Some things cannot be explained by biological mechanisms, because from the very beginning, sex was never just about the body. It is a far more delicate form of language, a silent dialogue between memory, emotion, and the unnamed regions within you. Your desire is shaped by deeply personal things: how you were once loved, how you were once hurt, how you learned to attach, how you long to be seen, how you want to be held or to surrender, and the fears you sometimes cannot even face yourself. Modern psychology merely repeats what your heart has known all along. The body reacts last, the soul reacts first. Some desires appear as a very soft whisper. You are tired, you want to let go, and you are lonely. You are afraid of being rejected, or you wish to be held just a little tighter. And some desires appear like a knock from distant memories, an experience that changed how you receive intimacy, a fear you've grown accustomed to avoiding senses, a part of yourself you've never dared to express. The interesting thing is this: when you look at your own desire with curiosity and gentleness, without judgment, without trying to push it away, you discover something important. It is not your desire that is asking to be decoded. It is you who are asking to be heard. And often, the clearest signals lie in the things you say the least. So instead of stepping aside, we can gently move closer to see what story your deepest needs are trying to tell. And one of the clearest mirrors of the human inner world lies in a preference many people experience, but few feel comfortable speaking about BDSM. When people mention BDSM, many think of controversial imagery, bold acts, or even deviance. But if we set judgment aside and look at it through the lens of psychology, a completely different picture emerges. BDSM, at its core, is not about the act. It is about power dynamics. One holds power, one relinquishes it. And it is in that exchange where human psychology reveals itself most clearly. There is a saying among sex therapists: in bed, people return to who they truly are, or who they've never been allowed to be. In the bedroom, people return to their truest selves, or to the version life has never allowed them to express. What makes BDSM fascinating from a psychological standpoint is not its boldness, but the way it reflects the deep needs we often hide in everyday life. The need for control, the need to be protected, the need to let go of responsibility, the need to feel seen and desired, the need to lead or to surrender. Studies show that over 74% of surveyed participants have chosen BDSM as a preferred fetish. This number does not mean people are abnormal. It reveals something nearly universal. Every human being has a quiet relationship with power. Some want to hold power, to compensate for areas of life where they feel helpless. Some want to release power because they have grown so used to pressure, responsibility, and being strong that they are exhausted. In BDSM, each role, dominant or submissive, is not merely a sexual choice, but an emotional story, a story of wounds, a story of how we confront or avoid the deepest parts of ourselves. What matters is not which role you choose. What matters is what that role is reflecting. And if you've ever wondered, why do I enjoy this feeling? The answer may have little to do with sex, and far more to do with the life you are living, with the pressure you carry, with the place where you must be strong, or with the places you've never been allowed to be soft. To see more clearly, let's step into each role and listen to what is happening inside those who choose to be submissive and those who choose to be dominant. If you are ready, we will gently enter that layer of analysis. There is a fascinating paradox that, if you pay attention, you'll see repeated in many people. Those who are always in control in daily life are often the ones who long the most to let go in the bedroom. Not because they are weak, not because they lack leadership qualities, and certainly not because they have issues. Simply because those who carry the most responsibility are often the most tired. They live in a world where being strong is the only option, a world where others depend on them, where every decision must be precise, where they must appear fine, even when they are drained. And then, there is a moment when they step into their private space, take off each layer of armor, and for the first time that day, or even in many years, they are allowed not to be strong. This is why so many people in leading roles, people under heavy work pressure, people who must constantly hold themselves to being capable, correct, perfect, find freedom in becoming submissive. No more decision-making, no more control, no more perfection, just being guided, being held, being given clear direction until every worry melts away. In psychology, this is considered a form of emotional release, the release that comes after long days of having to control everything. Some people even bring their anxiety into their sexuality. Fear of not being good enough, fear of doing it wrong, fear of being judged, fear of not satisfying. And when they choose submission, they are saying something very soft, yet very true. I want someone to help me set down the weight of having to lead everything. It is also connected to anxious attachment, a style of attachment that makes them crave being held tight, being enveloped, being reassured by someone stronger that, here, you don't have to worry about anything. Submission, therefore, is not weakness. It is the place where strong people finally allow themselves to be vulnerable. And that vulnerability, when placed in the right hands with the right boundaries, is not loss of control, but a form of freedom. And on the other side, those who choose to be dominant in BDSM have a very different story. A story of power, compensation, and validation that few truly understand. When you are ready, we will step into that opposite dimension. If submissives often carry exhaustion and pressure that needs to be set down, then those who choose to be dominant come from a very different place within themselves. Not everyone who enjoys holding power is strong, and not everyone who leads in the bedroom can lead in the outside world. Many of them, in a very quiet way, are trying to compensate for the areas where they feel out of control, overlooked, or unheard in real life. Some feel powerless at work. Some grew up in environments where their voice never carried enough weight. Some became so used to helplessness that even as adults, their bodies still search for a place where they're allowed to have a voice. And the bedroom becomes the only space where they can try on power in a safe way without harming anyone and without being judged by the real world. This is not brutality, nor is it forcing control through aggression. It is a form of restoring inner power, a completely natural human need after experiencing shrinking, submission, or invisibility in everyday relationships. Interestingly, research shows that dominants in BDSM often have higher life satisfaction, lower sensitivity to rejection, lower neuroticism, and a unique form of empathy despite an outwardly cold appearance. This means they are not above anyone else. They are simply using sexual space as a way to rebalance their inner world. For them, leading is not imposing. It is creating a sense of safety for the other person, controlling so both can relax, holding the pace so no one falls into anxiety, becoming the anchor they never had the chance to be in real life, and the memory of stolen power somewhere in their past drives them to reclaim it in such a gentle and intentional way. If submissives find freedom in letting go, dominants find freedom in leading. Both, in truth, are seeking a sense of balance that life has never fully given them. And when we understand the motives beneath it, all judgment falls away. Only one important truth remains. Each person is trying to heal in the way that feels safest to them. In another corner of the world of desire, there is a fetish that seems strange, yet it contains surprisingly delicate layers of psychology. Foot fetish. When you're ready to go deeper, we will touch that layer of meaning. In the world of desire, there are things that leave people puzzled, not understanding why they are drawn to them, and foot fetish is one of those things. At first glance, it's small, not dramatic like BDSM, not bold, not loud. But precisely because of that, it becomes a silent signal, reflecting a great deal about someone's emotional structure. The first thing many people misunderstand: a foot fetish is not a sign of deviation or psychological issues. In fact, 14% of the population has had fantasies or experiences involving feet, meaning it is much more common than you think. But the important point lies here. Feet, in psychology, symbolize position, the position of the one being worshipped or the one offering devotion. So, a foot fetish is not about the feet themselves. It is about the feelings they symbolize: power, surrender, being cherished, or the desire for a kind of closeness that isn't overwhelming to. Some people feel aroused when someone cares for, kisses, or touches their feet, not because the act is strange, but because it makes them feel worshipped, placed at the center, given someone's full attention in a gentle yet haunting way. Conversely, some feel aroused when they themselves care for or kiss another's feet, as a way of showing devotion, voluntary submission, a way of saying, "I give you my full presence." And then there is another layer, even more delicate, related to attachment style. The attachment patterns carried from childhood. Anxious individuals often use small, detailed actions to express closeness, caring, caressing, and noticing every little point on the partner's body. Avoidant individuals need intimacy, but avoid feeling surrounded and avoid eye contact or direct forms of closeness that feel too intense. For them, focusing on the feet creates connection, while still preserving the emotional distance they need. So sometimes, what you think is hard to explain is simply a unique way you seek safety, gentleness, or reverence in intimacy. Not loud, not intense, but deeply real. And the most beautiful thing is this: a foot fetish does not mean there is something wrong with you. It simply means you have a very specific, perhaps even refined, way of receiving intimacy. When we look at these things without judgment, all shame dissolves, leaving only a far more important question. What is my desire trying to heal or supplement inside me? From this question, we can go deeper still into another intriguing angle of intimacy, when someone cannot connect directly and must find a detour to feel safe. There are people who cannot bear being looked at directly, not because they are cold, not because they lack love, but because direct intimacy exposes everything inside them. And for some people, emotional nakedness is scarier than physical nakedness. That is why they turn to indirect forms of connection, points of contact without pressure, intimate actions that do not require them to fling open their heart all at once. Foot fetish, sometimes, is one of those detours. No eye contact, no words, no confrontation with emotions too deep to manage. Just one point of touch, a focus on a peripheral area, yet it gives them just enough closeness without overwhelming them. This is especially true for avoidant attachment, people who learn to love from a distance. They need connection, but fear being swallowed by intimacy. They want closeness, but cannot tolerate too much closeness. So they touch in the least risky ways, not imposing, not pushing in, not rattling their heart too strongly. For them, intimacy is not holding tight, but maintaining a steady connection they can control. Some have had negative experiences related to intimacy, being judged, being compared one, being hurt when they opened up how, or being belittled when revealing their body said. Those memories make them cautious around direct intimacy. So side actions, touching feet, caring for them, kissing a less threatening area, become the place where they feel safe to open up little by little. Not because they don't want depth, but because they want to enter that depth slowly, slow enough that their heart does not panic and run. And from this angle, we see something very gentle. Everyone has their own way of approaching intimacy. No one is right or wrong, only people trying to love in the way their heart allows. When we look at a desire with empathy, it stops seeming strange. We simply see a human being trying to connect, but at a rhythm they can endure. From here, another door into the inner world opens. Those who use roleplay as an escape, a space to temporarily step out of themselves and touch the version of themselves they never got to live in real life. If you feel a small shift inside you, we can step into that story. There are moments you don't realize. You have been carrying too much, too many duties, too many expectations. Life placed too many roles on you when you were still very young. The role of the strong one, the role of the comforter, the role of the one who always knows what to do, the role of the one who is not allowed to fail. Then one day, in the privacy of your bedroom, you suddenly want to become someone else. Not yourself, not the person trying every hour to stay upright, but a lighter, freer, more carefree version. That is when roleplay appears like a slightly open door. Not for you to run away, but for you to rest, for you to be allowed to step out of the heavy coat of real life wrapped around you. Psychologists call roleplay a kind of escape window, a subtle emergency exit for the mind. When you step into another character, you are doing what real life sometimes does not allow you to do. Speak in a different way, feel in a different way, act according to a different instinct. Live something you secretly want but never dared to reach for. And strangely, this change of role allows the deepest places inside you to breathe. For the pressured, roleplay brings relief. For the always strong, roleplay opens the soft corner they buried long ago. For those who constantly fear they're not good enough, roleplay gives them a space without judgment, where they are free to try, fail, and try again. For the soul standing near the edge of burnout, roleplay functions like a switch, helping them set down the perfect version. They're forced to carry it every day. The best part is this: roleplay is not a sign of instability. It is how a person finds air when life becomes too tight. And if we look without judgment, we see that behind the desire to roleplay is not rebellion, but a very human wish to be free of oneself for a moment. But every escape has its limits. There are times when roleplay is healthy, and times when it starts crossing into a warning zone, not because of the act, but because of emotions that have been suppressed for too long. If you want to understand where that boundary lies, we can move into a deeper angle, where roleplay is no longer just a game, but a signal of a need asking for care. At its most beautiful essence, roleplay is a breath, a temporary space away from yourself to live lighter for a few minutes, a few hours. But in psychology, anything that brings relief has two sides, one that balances us and one that whispers that something inside is missing. Not everyone who roleplays is running away, but sometimes it becomes a sign that a part of you has been suppressed for too long. Some only roleplay when they cannot bear real-life pressure anymore. Some only feel free enough to love when they are wearing a mask. Some only dare express their true instincts when they are not themselves. And when this repeats too many times, in too many forms, it is no longer just desire. It is the knock of a neglected place within you. There is something inside me that needs to be seen. For example, someone who only feels confident when playing a stronger character. Their self-esteem may be fragile. Someone who only feels safe when playing someone weaker. They may be used to hiding their vulnerable parts. Someone who only feels close when both are acting. True intimacy may scare them. In these cases, roleplay is no longer fun. It is like gauze placed over a deeper wound, a form of coping, a way to delay facing the truth, a mask that helps you breathe, but does not help you heal. This does not mean you are wrong. It does not mean roleplay is toxic. Absolutely not. The only thing worth examining is this question: if one day every role is removed, could you still feel safe? Still feel loved? Still feel free to be yourself? If the answer is yes, roleplay is expanding your experience. If the answer is no, roleplay is acting as a crutch, helping you stand on legs that are not yet healed. And that is when we gently look into the real fear underneath. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough, fear of having nothing to cling to once the role disappears. Recognizing this does not make you weaker. It makes you grow. Because the truth is, only when you understand why you need the mask can you truly take it off without hurting yourself. And from this very moment, a door opens into the final layer of awareness, where desire is no longer a secret, but becomes a mirror reflecting the layers of your soul you have forgotten to touch. If you feel ready to go to that deepest place, we can step into the final journey. There is a very quiet moment when you go deep enough into the world of desire. You realize everything you once feared avoided, and tried to hide was never a problem. It was merely a message, a reminder, a fragment of memory, a need that was never met. Desire never arises out of nowhere. It is born from the experiences you have lived through, how you were once loved, how you were once hurt, how you once had to be strong, how you once had to hide a part of yourself, how you adapted to survive in an old environment. Then, when you grow up, those things return. In subtle forms you call preferences or fantasies. But the truth is, desire is the language the soul uses to tell the story. Your mouth is afraid to tell. When you like being submissive, it may be the sigh of someone who has carried too much for too long. When you like being dominant, it may be the wish to reclaim the power stolen from you somewhere in the past. When you are drawn to feet, your heart may be seeking a kind of intimacy that does not suffocate you. When you choose roleplay, you may be searching for a space to temporarily step away from your version of yourself. The version that must be fine, must be appropriate, and must be correct. And when you realize this, you see something very gentle. No desire is bad. No fantasy is shameful. No preference defines who you are. They are simply clues. Pieces that say, this is the place that needs to be touched. This is the emotion you forgot. This is the need you haven't dared to name. Desire, therefore, is not an endpoint. It is a doorway into a greater journey, the journey of seeing yourself. When you dare to go deep enough, dare to look without judgment, dare to receive yourself with softness, you will see that desire is not darkness. It is the light shining into the places your mind has left in silence for too long. And in the moment you accept yourself in the fullest way, without avoidance, without shame, without trying to fix, you become free in the truest sense. Free from others' judgment, free from your own fear, free from everything you once hid, and free to choose how to love, how to connect, and how to live in the way your soul truly longs for. Desire does not make you different. It makes you human. And if there is one thing worth remembering in this entire journey, it is this. You are not wrong for desiring. You are simply speaking from your heart. Has been held in silence for too long. And sometimes, daring to listen to that is the very first step of healing. And that's the content of this episode. If you feel a sense of resonance with these reflections, don't forget to follow the channel and stay tuned for the upcoming episodes. See you soon. Bye.